Manipulation is a subtle and insidious weapon, and those who wield it do so with precision. It is not always loud or obvious. It doesn't announce itself at the door. Instead, it creeps in quietly, blending into the fabric of relationships, masquerading as concern or guidance. When someone thrives on manipulation, they operate with an agenda, bending reality to serve their needs. They distort the truth, not just to deceive others, but to control them. Their words may sound sweet, but they are laced with poison, and their actions, though seemingly innocent, are calculated to undermine your confidence and autonomy. People who thrive on manipulation are like architects of confusion. They carefully construct situations that leave you questioning your own perceptions and instincts. It starts small, a casual remark, a fleeting moment of doubt, but over time, these seeds of uncertainty take root. You find yourself replaying conversations, wondering if you misheard or misunderstood. Maybe I overreacted, you tell yourself. Maybe they didn't mean it that way. This is exactly what a manipulator wants. They operate in the shadows of ambiguity, creating an environment where nothing feels concrete and everything is open to reinterpretation. One of their most effective tools is guilt. Manipulators know how to exploit your empathy and sense of responsibility. They'll frame their actions or intentions in a way that makes you feel like the problem lies with you. For example, if you try to set a boundary, they might respond with phrases like, "I can't believe you'd think I would do something like that," or "After all I've done for you, this is how you treat me." These statements are not appeals for understanding. They are traps designed to make you second-guess yourself and abandon the boundaries you're trying to establish. They prey on your desire to avoid conflict and maintain harmony, twisting those very instincts against you. Manipulators are also masters of deflection. When confronted, they rarely address the issue directly. Instead, they shift the focus back onto you or onto unrelated matters. If you accuse them of being unfair or dishonest, they might respond with, "Why are you always so sensitive?" Or, "Let's talk about how you've been acting lately." These tactics not only sidestep accountability, but also put you on the defensive. Before you know it, you're apologizing for things you didn't even do, while the real issue gets buried under a pile of manufactured grievances. Another hallmark of manipulative behavior is their ability to wear different masks. They adapt their approach depending on who they are dealing with, presenting one version of themselves to some people and an entirely different persona to others. This creates a web of contradictions that is difficult to untangle. For example, they might be charming and agreeable in public while being critical and dismissive in private. This duality serves to isolate you. When you try to explain their behavior to others, it often sounds unbelievable. "But they're so nice," people might say. "Are you sure you're not overreacting?" The manipulator counts on this. They thrive on the confusion and disbelief they create, knowing it adds another layer of control over you. A key aspect of their manipulation is how they frame their intentions. They'll often cloak their actions in the guise of care or concern, making it harder to recognize their true motives. They might say, "I'm only doing this because I care about you," or "I just want what's best for you." While these words may sound reassuring, their actions often tell a different story. They don't want what's best for you, they want what's best for them, and they're willing to disguise their self-interest as altruism. This duplicity makes it challenging to call them out, as their words provide a convenient cover for their behavior. Manipulative people are also highly skilled at exploiting your insecurities. They have a way of identifying the areas where you feel least confident and using them as leverage. If you struggle with self-doubt, they'll amplify it, subtly suggesting that you're incapable or unworthy. If you've confided in them about past mistakes or vulnerabilities, they'll bring those up at the most opportune moments, not to support you, but to gain the upper hand. "You've always had trouble with this," they might say, or "I'm just reminding you because I care." In reality, they're not reminding you to help. They're reminding you to weaken your resolve. The most dangerous aspect of manipulators is their persistence. They don't rely on a single tactic or incident to achieve their goals. They play the long game. Each lie, each half-truth, Each moment of confusion is part of a larger strategy to erode your sense of self and make you dependent on them. Over time, you may find yourself losing confidence in your decisions, doubting your instincts, and relying more and more on their guidance and approval. This dependency is their ultimate goal because it gives them complete control. If you find yourself entangled with someone who thrives on manipulation, it's crucial to recognize the signs and reclaim your power. Manipulation flourishes in silence and denial, but it cannot withstand clarity and truth. By understanding their tactics and staying grounded in your own sense of reality, you can begin to untangle yourself from their influence and take back control of your life. There's a certain kind of person who, instead of lifting you up when you stumble, seems to revel in your missteps. These individuals don't outwardly cheer at your failures, but their quiet satisfaction is palpable. It's in the way their eyes light up when you share bad news, the subtle smirk they try to hide, or the sudden enthusiasm in their voice when discussing your struggles. They celebrate your failures not by throwing a party, but by feeding off the energy of your setbacks. To them, every stumble you take is confirmation that you're not as strong, capable, or successful as they fear you might be. These people see your failures as opportunities to feel better about themselves. When you falter, it diminishes the threat they perceive in your accomplishments or potential. In their mind, your success casts a shadow over their inadequacies. So, when life throws you a curveball, they secretly relish the moment because it temporarily shifts the spotlight away from their own shortcomings. It's not just about your failure, it's about their relief. For a moment, they don't have to compare themselves to you, and they find comfort in that. You'll notice how they linger on your setbacks longer than necessary. If you bring up a mistake or a challenge, they'll dissect it with a level of interest that feels disproportionate. They'll ask probing questions, not to help or support you, but to gather details they can use later. These details might surface in a conversation with others, twisted into a narrative that paints you in a less flattering light. And if you listen closely, you'll hear the barely concealed delight as they recount your struggles, perhaps under the guise of concern. Did you hear what happened to them? Such a shame, they might say, their tone betraying more pleasure than pity. Their reactions often feel out of sync with the situation. If you're dealing with a setback and confide in them, they might offer hollow words of comfort, but their demeanor doesn't match their words. They may suppress a smile or fail to meet your eyes, as if they're holding back their true feelings. This dissonance can leave you feeling unsettled, as though your pain has become a source of amusement or satisfaction for them. It's not always what they say, it's how they say it. The subtle hints that they're not as upset by your troubles as they should be. Such individuals are quick to highlight your failures to others. They'll share your struggles in conversations, often under the pretense of being well-meaning or concerned. I heard they're going through a rough patch, they might say, their tone dripping with false sympathy. But the underlying motive is to make your struggles public, to ensure that others see you as flawed or less capable. They understand that your setbacks can shift the narrative, diminishing the admiration or respect you've earned. By putting your failures in the spotlight, they hope to eclipse your successes. What makes their behavior particularly insidious is the way they mask it. They rarely come across as openly hostile or unsupportive. Instead, they wrap their intentions in layers of subtlety, making it difficult to call them out without sounding overly sensitive or paranoid. If you confront them, they're quick to deny any ill intent, saying things like, "I was just trying to help," or "You're reading too much into it." Their ability to hide behind a facade of concern or friendship makes their actions even more damaging, because it erodes your trust, not only in them but in your own judgment. Over time, their behavior can have a corrosive effect on your confidence. Constantly dealing with someone who seems to enjoy your failures can make you more hesitant to take risks or pursue new opportunities. You might find yourself holding back, fearing the consequences of failure not because of the failure itself, but because of how this person will respond. They thrive on creating this dynamic, where you second-guess yourself and shrink from the potential of growth. What's even more troubling is how they handle your successes. While they might outwardly congratulate you, there's often a backhanded compliment or a faint hint of resentment in their words. That's great for you, but are you sure it'll last? They might say, planting seeds of doubt even in your victories. Their inability to celebrate your achievements with genuine joy is a stark contrast to the enthusiasm they show for your failures. It's a clear sign of their envy and insecurity, a reflection of their struggle to see you rise above them. This pattern is not about you, it's about them. Their need to celebrate your failures stems from their own feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness. They see life as a competition where someone else's success diminishes their own. Your failures offer them a temporary escape from their insecurities, a momentary sense of superiority. But it's a hollow victory, one that reveals more about their character than your worth. The behavior of those who celebrate your failures is a reminder to protect your energy and your circle. While it's natural to encounter setbacks, the people you share them with should be those who genuinely support you, not those who see your struggles as their gain. Recognizing these individuals for who they are is the first step in reclaiming your peace and moving forward with confidence. There are people in life who seem to act like a constant weight on your spirit. No matter how positive or energetic you may feel, when the interaction begins, you find yourself depleted, emotionally and mentally drained by the time it ends. These individuals are like emotional vampires, quietly yet persistently drawing from your energy reserves. Their presence is never neutral. It's always heavy, demanding, or unsettling. You might not even realize what's happening until you step away and feel the exhaustion settling over you, wondering why you feel so tired without a clear reason. Such people often carry an aura of negativity. They're the ones who seem to find a problem in every solution, a reason to complain in every situation. Their conversations are filled with pessimism, judgment, or criticism, and instead of leaving you inspired or uplifted, you feel burdened by the weight of their issues. These are the individuals who never seem to consider how their words or actions affect those around them. To them, unloading their negativity is not a choice but a habit. They're not seeking advice or solutions, they're simply transferring their emotional burden onto you. They thrive on drama and conflict, pulling you into their whirlpool of chaos. Whether it's constant arguments, unresolved personal issues, or perpetual dissatisfaction, their lives seem to be an unending source of turmoil. And even if the drama has nothing to do with you, they'll find a way to drag you into it. They seek your sympathy, your time, and your emotional energy, forcing you to act as a mediator, a counselor, or simply a sounding board. While it's natural to want to support the people you care about, there's a difference between offering help and being used as an emotional dumping ground. With these individuals, the latter is often the case. These energy drainers have an uncanny ability to monopolize your attention. Every interaction revolves around them, their problems, their feelings, their needs. They rarely ask about your well-being, and when they do, it's often a cursory gesture rather than genuine concern. If you try to share your thoughts or feelings, the conversation is quickly redirected back to them. Over time, this one-sided dynamic becomes exhausting. It feels as though you're giving and giving, while they're taking and taking, with no thought of reciprocation. What makes these interactions even more draining is the subtle pressure they exert. It's not just about their words or actions, but the underlying expectation that you'll always be there for them, no matter what. They might not say it outright, but their behavior communicates it clearly. Your role is to support them, to listen to them, to prioritize them. And if you ever try to set boundaries or take a step back, they're quick to react with guilt tripping or accusations. You're being selfish, they might say, or I thought I could count on you. These tactics are designed to make you feel bad for prioritizing your own well-being, keeping you locked in a cycle of giving at your own expense. Another way they drain your energy is through their unpredictability. These are the people who keep you on edge, never quite sure what version of them you'll get on any given day. One moment they're warm and friendly, the next they're cold or irritable. Their moods swing wildly, and you find yourself walking on eggshells, trying to avoid saying or doing anything that might set them off. This emotional inconsistency is exhausting because it requires constant vigilance. You're always adapting, always accommodating, always managing their feelings, often at the cost of your own. Over time, their behavior can take a toll on your mental and emotional health. You might notice yourself feeling more anxious, irritable, or even resentful after spending time with them. Your once positive outlook may start to dim, clouded by the negativity they bring into your life. Even when you're not with them, their influence lingers, like an emotional residue that's hard to shake off. You replay conversations in your mind, worry about their reactions, or feel drained just thinking about the next interaction. These individuals often lack awareness of the impact they have on others. They may not realize or care that their actions are draining. For them, their behavior is normal. They've grown accustomed to leaning on others for support without considering the cost. And because they don't recognize the harm they cause, they rarely change. They continue to take, often unaware that they're leaving others depleted in the process. Dealing with such people requires an enormous amount of emotional resilience. It's not just about managing their behavior, but also protecting your own energy. This can mean setting boundaries, limiting the time you spend with them, or even stepping away from the relationship entirely. These decisions are never easy, especially when the person in question is someone you care about. But at a certain point, you have to ask yourself whether their presence in your life is doing more harm than good. Life is too short and too precious to spend it constantly drained by others. Your energy is a finite resource, one that should be invested in relationships and activities that nourish and uplift you. Recognizing the individuals who drain you is the first step in reclaiming your peace and balance. You deserve connections that replenish your spirit, not those that leave you feeling empty. There are people in this world who don't see kindness for what it truly is: a strength, a virtue, an extension of one's humanity. Instead, they twist it into something else entirely, mistaking your generosity for weakness, your empathy for naivety, and your willingness to give as a lack of boundaries. These individuals view kindness not as an admirable quality, but as an opening, a vulnerability they can exploit for their gain. They prey on your good nature, turning what should be a source of connection into a tool for their manipulation. You'll notice this pattern in the way they respond to your gestures of kindness. Instead of showing gratitude or reciprocity, they take your actions for granted, as if they are entitled to your time, energy, or resources. What starts as a favor quickly becomes an expectation. They don't ask, they assume. They don't appreciate, they demand. Over time, your kindness ceases to be seen as a choice and instead becomes something they believe they deserve by default. They'll stretch your willingness to help to its breaking point, always pushing for more, testing how far they can go before you push back. When you try to set boundaries, they react as though you've done something wrong. The moment you say no or assert yourself, they'll accuse you of being unkind, selfish, or ungrateful. They twist your attempts to protect yourself into evidence of weakness, claiming that if you were truly kind, you wouldn't hesitate to meet their demands. This tactic is designed to make you doubt yourself, to question whether your boundaries are fair or justified. And if you're naturally inclined toward compassion, this can create an internal conflict that leaves you vulnerable to their continued manipulation. Their ability to twist kindness into weakness often shows in how they speak about you to others. If they don't get their way, they may frame your boundaries as a character flaw, portraying you as someone who only pretends to be kind or generous. They're nice, but only when it's convenient for them, they might say, planting seeds of doubt in others' minds. By distorting your actions, they aim to undermine your reputation while maintaining their control over the narrative. Their goal is to isolate you, making you feel misunderstood or unsupported, all because you chose to stand up for yourself. In their eyes, your empathy is not a gift, but a tool they can wield. They know you're likely to put others before yourself, so they exploit that instinct at every turn. They'll play on your emotions, presenting themselves as victims or helpless figures in need of your aid. They'll tell you stories designed to pull at your heartstrings, exaggerating their struggles or fabricating crises to gain your sympathy. And because you're kind-hearted, you'll feel compelled to help, even when it comes at a cost to your own well-being. This manipulation often extends to making you feel guilty for things that aren't your responsibility. If they fail to meet their obligations or face the consequences of their actions, they'll shift the blame onto you. If only you'd done this, or I wouldn't be in this position. If you'd helped me more, they might say, subtly implying that their struggles are somehow your fault. This guilt-tripping is a powerful tactic, one that keeps you entangled in their web, always trying to do more, give more, or fix their problems. Over time, their behavior can erode your confidence in your judgment. You start to wonder if maybe they're right, if maybe your kindness does make you weak or foolish. You question whether your boundaries are too harsh, whether your expectations are unreasonable. This self-doubt is exactly what they want because it keeps you in a state of compliance. The more you second-guess yourself, the easier it is for them to continue taking advantage of you. What's particularly damaging about this dynamic is that it can make you wary of being kind in the future. After enduring this treatment, you might find yourself holding back, fearing that your generosity will once again be misconstrued as a weakness. You start to build walls around your heart, not because you want to, but because you feel you have to. And in doing so, you risk losing a part of yourself, the part that finds joy in giving and connecting with others. It's important to recognize that their behavior is not a reflection of your worth or your kindness, but of their own character. They twist kindness into weakness because they lack the ability to see it for what it truly is. Their actions stem from their insecurities, their need to control, and their inability to build genuine connections. They target kind people because they mistake compassion for gullibility, not realizing that true kindness is rooted in strength and resilience. Understanding this dynamic is the first step toward reclaiming your power. Kindness is not weakness, it's a choice, one that requires courage and conviction. And while it's painful to see your generosity exploited, it's also a reminder to be discerning about where and to whom you direct your kindness. You have every right to set boundaries, to say no, and to protect your energy. Your kindness is a gift, one that should be valued and respected, not manipulated or taken for granted. There are people in life who have a peculiar way of keeping you tethered to moments that you've long tried to move past. Instead of encouraging growth or supporting your efforts to heal, they insist on dragging you back to the shadows of yesterday. They hold up a mirror to your past mistakes, failures, or regrets, not to help you reflect and grow, but to ensure that you never truly escape their grip. These individuals thrive on keeping you stuck, unable to move forward, as if your progress threatens their sense of control or importance in your life. You'll often notice this tendency in their conversations. They have a way of bringing up old wounds, sometimes subtly, sometimes blatantly, but always with a purpose. They'll remind you of moments when you fell short, choices you regret, or situations where things didn't go as planned. Remember when you messed that up, they might say, or I still can't believe you did that, even if they cloak their words in humor or lightheartedness. The intent is clear: to keep those memories fresh in your mind, ensuring you never fully let go of the weight they carry. They might frame these reminders as concern or caution, claiming they're only bringing it up to prevent you from repeating the same mistakes. But if you look closer, it's evident that their words are not meant to uplift or empower you. Instead, they seem almost invested in your doubts and insecurities, as though your hesitation to move forward gives them some sense of superiority or leverage. They act as though they're the keepers of your narrative, constantly pulling you back to a chapter you've been trying to close. These individuals often mask their intentions by pretending to be helpful or protective. They'll remind you of times you failed and suggest that taking risks now might lead to the same outcomes. Are you sure you want to try that again? Last time it didn't work out so well, they might say. At first glance, their words might seem like cautionary advice, but over time you realize that their constant focus on your past failures serves only to diminish your confidence. They plant seeds of doubt, watering them with reminders of your previous shortcomings, so you begin to question your ability to achieve anything better. In some cases, their fixation on your past comes from their inability to grow themselves. These people may feel stagnant or insecure about their progress, so they focus on your history to avoid confronting their shortcomings. By keeping you anchored to your past, they don't have to reckon with their own failures or lack of growth. They use your history as a distraction, ensuring that the spotlight stays on your perceived flaws rather than shifting to their unresolved issues. What makes this dynamic particularly damaging is how it can affect your mindset. When you're constantly reminded of past mistakes, it becomes harder to see the possibilities of the future. You start to internalize their narrative, doubting your ability to change or improve. Instead of viewing your past as a series of lessons or stepping stones, you begin to see it as a barrier, an unshakable weight that defines your identity. Their words and actions create a mental loop that's difficult to break, one where you're always second-guessing yourself and feeling unworthy of progress. These individuals often have a way of framing their relationship with you as irreplaceable. They'll suggest that they're the only ones who truly know you, who have been there through it all, and who understand your story. While this might sound supportive on the surface, it's another way to tether you to the past. They subtly imply that moving forward, whether it's building new relationships, pursuing new goals, or adopting a new mindset, would somehow betray the bond you share. We've been through so much together, they'll say, making you feel as though progress would mean leaving them behind. Their grip on the past often extends to creating cycles of guilt. They may remind you of times when you hurt them, disappointed them, or failed in ways that impacted them directly. Even if you've apologized, made amends, or moved on, they'll revisit those moments, ensuring that guilt remains a tool they can use to control you. They position themselves as the victims of your past actions, making it harder for you to focus on your growth without feeling weighed down by a sense of obligation or remorse. Over time, their behavior can create a sense of frustration and stagnation. You may find yourself yearning for progress, but feeling unable to break free from their influence. Their constant reminders of the past chip away at your self-esteem, making you feel as though you're defined by your history rather than your potential. They make moving forward seem daunting, as if the road ahead is littered with the same failures and setbacks they keep reminding you about. It's important to recognize that this dynamic isn't about genuine care or concern for your well-being. People who truly care about you will acknowledge your past without keeping you shackled to it. They'll encourage growth, celebrate your progress, and remind you that your mistakes don't define you. Those who keep you stuck in the past, on the other hand, often do so out of their insecurities, their need for control, or their fear of seeing you outgrow them. Breaking free from this pattern requires strength and self-awareness. It's not easy to confront someone who constantly pulls you back into old narratives, especially when there's someone you care about. But your growth and happiness depend on your ability to focus on the present and the future, rather than being held hostage by the past. You deserve relationships that uplift and inspire you, not ones that keep you trapped in a cycle of doubt and regret. Isolation is a powerful tool in the hands of someone who wants control over your life. When a person seeks to isolate you from others, it's not accidental or incidental, it's intentional. It's a calculated effort to sever your connections, to weaken your support system, and to ensure that they remain the dominant influence in your life. Isolation creates dependency, and dependency is their ultimate goal. The more they can distance you from the people who love and support you, the easier it is for them to mold your thoughts, shape your decisions, and keep you under their sway. It often starts subtly, almost unnoticeably, as they sow seeds of doubt about the people closest to you. They may question the motives of your friends or family members, planting the idea that these individuals aren't as loyal or trustworthy as you think. Are you sure they really care about you, they might ask? Or I've noticed they always seem to criticize you behind your back. These comments are designed to make you second-guess your relationships, to erode your trust in the very people who could help you see through their manipulations. As their influence grows, they become more overt in their efforts to distance you from others. They might express jealousy or irritation when you spend time with friends, claiming that you're neglecting them or making them feel unimportant. You're always with them. What about us? They'll say, making you feel guilty for maintaining your other relationships. Over time, this guilt compounds, and you may start to prioritize their needs and feelings over those of your friends and family, not because it feels right, but because it feels easier. They'll often frame their isolation tactics as acts of love or concern. I just want to protect you, they'll say, or I don't think those people are good for you on the surface. This may seem caring, even protective, but beneath it lies a deeper motive to control your environment. By convincing you that others are harmful, they position themselves as the only safe and reliable person in your life. It's a strategy that fosters dependence, ensuring that your world begins to revolve around them and their approval. One of their most effective tools is creating conflict between you and the people in your life. They'll stir up misunderstandings, exaggerate minor issues, or outright fabricate incidents to drive a wedge between you and others. I heard they said something negative about you, they might claim, or I think they're jealous of you. These statements are meant to create mistrust, to make you question the intentions of those who genuinely care for you. Before you realize it, you're second-guessing your relationships, seeing problems where none existed, and slowly withdrawing from the people who could offer you clarity and support. Over time, this isolation takes a toll on your emotional well-being. As your world becomes smaller, you begin to feel more alone and more reliant on the person who orchestrated the isolation. They'll use this dependency to tighten their grip, offering themselves as the solution to the loneliness they created. You don't need anyone else, they'll say or see. I'm the only one who truly understands you. These statements reinforce the idea that they are indispensable, making it harder for you to imagine a life outside of their influence. They also manipulate your time and energy, ensuring that you have little left to invest in other relationships. They may demand constant attention, turning every moment into an opportunity to keep you occupied with their needs. Whether it's through endless conversations, frequent crises that require your help, or subtle demands for your presence, they ensure that you're too drained to nurture other connections. This leaves you isolated not just physically but emotionally, as your capacity to engage with others diminishes. As the isolation deepens, they may even control how you communicate with others. They'll monitor your phone calls, read your messages, or discourage you from using social media. Why do you need to talk to them so much? They'll ask, or I feel like you're hiding something from me. These accusations are designed to make you feel defensive, to justify cutting off contact with others to avoid conflict. Bit by bit, they restrict your access to outside perspectives, ensuring that their voice is the loudest and often the only one you hear. This kind of isolation is particularly insidious because it can feel like a gradual erosion rather than a sudden shift. By the time you realize what's happening, you may find yourself disconnected from the people who once grounded and supported you. The person isolating you will likely frame this as a natural progression, saying things like, "It's just us against the world," or "We don't need anyone else." But the truth is, their goal was never to strengthen your bond, it was to weaken your independence. Recognizing this behavior is crucial because isolation is not love, care, or protection. It's a strategy of control that benefits the isolator while diminishing your sense of self. True love and friendship encourage connection, not separation. The people who genuinely care about you will want you to have a full and thriving life, surrounded by supportive relationships. They won't demand exclusivity or create conflicts to push others away. Instead, they'll celebrate your connections, knowing that a strong support system only enhances your happiness and well-being.